Welcome to the Congo, more than just a map. So, you want to understand the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC. Let's start with the basics, like we're meeting someone for the first time. First off, where is it? Find the middle of Africa on a map. See that giant country that looks like it's taking up all the space? That's it. It's huge. We're talking the second largest country in Africa, so big you could fit Spain, France, Germany, Sweden, Norway inside it and still have room to stretch. It's a place of incredible scale, bordering 9 other countries, which is like having 9 very different, very complicated neighbors. Some you get along with, some, well, it's complicated. And that's a theme we'll come back to. Now, let's talk about what's inside this massive country. The DRC is home to the Congo River, the second longest river in Africa and the second most powerful in the world. It's the country's lifeblood, a massive watery highway winding through everything. Surrounding that river is the Congo Basin, the world's second largest rainforest right after the Amazon. This isn't just a bunch of trees, it's one of the planet's lungs, breathing in carbon dioxide, breathing out oxygen. It's also home to incredible wildlife you've seen in movies: lowland gorillas, bonobos, okapis, animals that look like they were designed by a committee with a sense of humor. But the story of the Congo isn't just about its size or its nature, it's a story about people and what's under their feet. The land is bursting with wealth, not just a little bit, but an almost unbelievable amount. We're talking diamonds, gold, copper, and coltan, that magic dust that makes your phone vibrate. You would think a country with this much natural treasure would be one of the richest, most stable places on Earth, but that's the great, tragic paradox of the Congo. The story of this land is defined by a single high-stakes question: who gets to benefit from all this wealth? The people who live there, or someone else? This question is the engine of the Congo's history. It's the reason for its brutal colonial past, its chaotic independence, its devastating wars, and its ongoing struggles. The stakes couldn't be higher. For the more than 100 million people who call the DRC home, this isn't an academic question. It's about their daily survival, their children's future, and their nation's soul. So, as we dive into this, remember that this isn't just a story about politics or minerals, it's a story about people, their immense resilience, and their long, hard fight for a fair shot at the prosperity their own land holds. It's a story that, in many ways, connects directly to the device you might be reading this on. To understand the DRC today, you have to go back to the late 1800s, and you have to meet a guy named King Leopold II of Belgium. This wasn't Belgium, the country, colonizing the Congo. The king claimed the entire region as his own personal property. Imagine one man owning land 76 times bigger than his kingdom. He called it the Congo Free State. It was his private business venture, his personal ATM. The people of the Congo were forced to make the withdrawals. Leopold's business was rubber. The world needed rubber for tires and industrial belts. The Congo had it. The king's agents set up a system of pure terror. Men were forced into forests to harvest rubber from vines, missed quotas, and the punishment was unspeakable. His private army, the Force Publique, would mutilate people, often cutting off hands. This wasn't a side effect. This was the system. Cruelty as a management strategy for maximum profit. Millions died. The population was cut in half. A demographic catastrophe. People died from violence, from starvation, and from disease. It was a holocaust driven by greed. Missionaries and journalists exposed the atrocities. Global outrage forced action. In 1908, Belgium took the colony from the king. The Congo Free State became the Belgian Congo. Outright mutilation stopped as official policy, but it remained a colony. Looting became organized exploitation. Belgium built roads, railways, and cities, not for Congolese benefit. They were to get copper and diamonds to the coast. Congolese were denied education, political power, and leadership paths. They became labor in their own land. That legacy, treated as a resource, not people, left a deep, lasting scar. By the 1950s, a wave of independence was sweeping across Africa, and the Congo was no exception. The people had had enough. They wanted to rule themselves, to control their own destiny. In 1960, in a surprisingly rapid handover, Belgium granted them independence. A charismatic and brilliant leader named Patrice Lumumba became the first democratically elected prime minister. For a moment, there was this incredible burst of hope. Lumumba gave a fiery speech on Independence Day, not thanking Belgium for its gifts, but calling out the racism, injustice, and humiliation of colonial rule. He had a vision for a truly independent Congo, one where its vast wealth would finally be used to lift up its own people. But this vision was seen as a threat. The Cold War was in full swing and the world was divided between the United States, the Soviet Union. Lumumba wanted the Congo to be neutral to work with everyone, but his talk of nationalizing the mines to benefit the Congolese people sounded a lot like communism to Western powers, especially the United States, Belgium. They had huge financial interests in the Congo's mines and were terrified of losing control. So, they decided Lumumba had to go. Just a few months after he was elected, a crisis was engineered, the army mutinied, a young army chief named Joseph Désiré Mobutu seized power with Western backing. What happened to Lumumba is one of the great tragedies of this story. He was captured, tortured, executed in 1961 with the complicity of Belgian and American intelligence agencies. The hope for a truly independent democratic Congo died with him. In his place, Mobutu took complete control. He was the kind of dictator you see in movies. He changed his name to Mobutu Sese Seko Kukumbendu Wazabanga, which translates to something like the all-powerful warrior who, because of his endurance and inflexible will to win, goes from conquest to conquest, leaving fire in his wake. You don't give yourself a name like that if you plan on being subtle. For over 30 years, Mobutu ruled the country which he renamed Zaire. He was a master of staying in power. He built a cult of personality, with his face everywhere, on TV, on money, on posters. He created a system of government that was basically organized theft, a kleptocracy. He and his inner circle plundered the nation's wealth, stealing billions of dollars while the country's roads, schools, hospitals crumbled. He kept the people poor and divided using his control of the military to crush any opposition. He was a loyal anti-communist ally to the West, so they looked the other way as he hollowed out his own country, leaving it a fragile, broken shell. By the mid-1990s, Mobutu's corrupt regime was rotting from the inside. The Cold War was over, so his Western allies didn't need him anymore. That breeze came from next door, in Rwanda. In 1994, the Rwandan genocide happened, a horrific event where nearly 1 million people were slaughtered. Afterward, perpetrators, Hutu militias known as the Interahamwe, fled across the border into eastern Congo, hiding among millions of refugees. They used refugee camps as bases to continue their fight. This was the spark that lit the whole region on fire. Rwanda decided to act. Uganda decided to act. In 1996, they backed Laurent Désiré Kabila. His army, Congolese rebels and foreign soldiers, swept across the country with shocking speed. Mobutu's unpaid, unmotivated army melted away. In 1997, Kabila marched into Kinshasa and declared himself president. Mobutu fled into exile and died months later. The country was renamed the Democratic Republic of Congo. For a brief moment, it seemed like a new era, but it was just the beginning of something much worse. Kabila fell out with former allies, Rwanda and Uganda. He ordered their troops to leave. They refused. They had their own interests, vast mineral wealth in eastern Congo. In 1998 they invaded again, backing new rebel groups to overthrow Kabila. This started the Second Congo War, often called Africa's World War. At its peak, 9 African nations and dozens of armed groups fought on Congolese soil. By the fragile 2003 peace deal, an estimated 5.4 million people had died, the deadliest conflict since World War II. So, why was everyone fighting so hard over the eastern Congo? The answer lies under the ground. We've all heard of blood diamonds, gems mined in war zones and sold to fund conflicts. Well, the Congo has that, but it also has something the 21st century world needs even more. Conflict minerals. Tin, tantalum, tungsten, and also gold. And the most famous of these is coltan, the metallic ore that, when refined, gives you tantalum. It's a superconductor that is essential for making the tiny capacitors in our smartphones, laptops, and gaming consoles. Basically, it's a key ingredient in the modern digital world. The problem is that the eastern Congo, where the fighting has been the most intense, sits on top of up to 80% of the world's coltan reserves. During the wars, and in the low-level conflicts that have continued ever since, controlling the mines became the main objective for everyone. Warlords, rebel groups, foreign armies, and even parts of the Congolese National Army, they would force local people, including children, to work in dangerous, unregulated artisanal mines, digging the minerals out of the earth with their bare hands. Then, they would smuggle the minerals out and sell them into the global supply chain. This creates a vicious cycle. The money from the minerals buys guns, which allows the armed groups to control more territory and more mines, which gives them more money for more guns. The wealth that should be building schools and hospitals is instead funding the very violence that is tearing the country apart. The people doing the actual digging see almost none of the profit. They work in horrific conditions, risking their lives in collapsing tunnels for just $1 or $2 a day. The minerals leave the Congo, pass through a series of middlemen, and eventually end up with international companies who put them in the products we use every day. In recent years, there has been a push for more transparency. Laws like the Dodd-Frank Act in the United States required companies to check their supply chains to see if their minerals were coming from conflict zones. This has had some positive effects, with some mines becoming certified as conflict-free, but the problem is far from solved. Smuggling is still rampant, and many armed groups have simply shifted to other sources of income, like illegal gold mining or taxing local populations. The fundamental link between the Congo's incredible mineral wealth and the suffering of its people remains one of the hardest knots to untangle. So, with this backdrop of war and exploitation, what is daily life actually like for the people of the Congo? Well, it's a story of incredible resilience. The first thing you have to understand is that the state is often completely absent. For many people, especially outside the big cities, there are no reliable public services, no functioning schools, no hospitals with medicine, no paved roads, no electricity, no police you can trust. People have learned to rely on themselves, their families, their communities to survive. They are resourceful in ways that are hard to imagine. Running informal economies. Finding ways to get by in a system that has failed them. Life is a grind. A huge majority of the population lives in extreme poverty. For many, the day is about the struggle for the next meal. They are farmers, working small plots of land with basic tools, cassava, maize, vegetables. They are vendors in bustling, chaotic markets, selling secondhand clothes, selling phone credits. They are moto taxi drivers navigating potholed dirt roads. It's a life of constant hustle, powered by an incredible spirit of débrouillardise, a French word that roughly means being a resourceful survivor, someone who can figure things out and make something out of nothing. But the Congo is not just a story of struggle, it is a place of immense cultural richness and joy. Music is the heartbeat of the nation. Congolese rumba is a sound that has conquered the entire African continent and beyond. Intricate guitar melodies, smooth, soulful vocals that can make you dance even if you have 2 left feet. The people are known for their style, their flair, their love of fashion. The Sapeurs of Brazzaville, the Sapeurs of Kinshasa, men who despite living in poverty, dress in incredibly elegant, colorful designer suits. As a form of artistic expression and defiance, it's a statement that you can have dignity and joy, even when you have nothing else. This resilience is rooted in strong social bonds. Family is everything, community is everything, and faith is a powerful force. In the Christian church, in traditional beliefs, in the absence of a state, religious organizations often step in to provide basic schooling. And healthcare. There's a warmth and a deep-seated humanity that shines through despite the hardship. Congolese people are quick to laugh, quick to share what little they have, and possess a profound sense of hope that is both humbling and inspiring. It is this spirit that has kept the country from completely falling apart. Even with all that resilience, the DRC faces enormous threats that are holding it back. The first and most immediate is ongoing violence. While the Big Africa's World War is officially over, the eastern part of the country has never found true peace. It remains a patchwork of conflict zones, with over 100 different armed groups still active. M23, ADF, various local militias. They terrorize communities, fighting for control of land, resources, influence. This isn't a formal war, it's a chronic low-level infection that refuses to heal, causing mass displacement, human rights abuses, constant fear for millions of people. And a direct consequence of this violence and the extreme poverty is the plague of child labor. The DRC has one of the highest rates of child labor in the world. Children are forced to work in the most dangerous conditions imaginable. You see them in the mines, digging for cobalt, coltan, in dark, unstable tunnels that could collapse at any moment. They are exposed to toxic metals with no protection. They are recruited as child soldiers by armed groups, forced to fight and witness unspeakable horrors. This practice robs them of their education, their health, their childhood. It's a devastating cycle that traps families in poverty for generations. The third major threat is to the Congo's incredible natural environment. The Congo Basin rainforest is disappearing at an alarming rate. This deforestation is driven by several forces. Poor families, with no other options, cut down trees for firewood and to clear small plots for farming. But the bigger problem is large-scale illegal logging, where valuable timber is harvested and smuggled out of the country. Mining operations also clear vast areas of forest. This isn't just a tragedy for the unique plants and animals that live there, it's a global problem. Losing the Congo rainforest would release massive amounts of carbon into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change for all of us. These three threats, violence, child labor, deforestation, are all connected. They feed off each other. The fight for resources fuels the violence. The poverty caused by violence forces children into mines. The lawlessness that allows armed groups to thrive also allows for illegal logging. And running through all of it is the threat of corruption. A weak and corrupt government is unable, and sometimes unwilling, to protect its citizens, its children, its natural heritage. Tackling these challenges requires addressing them not as separate issues, but as one interconnected crisis. In the face of such overwhelming problems, it's easy to feel like the situation is hopeless, but there are people and organizations working every day to make a difference. First, you have the international community. The United Nations runs MONUSCO, its largest peacekeeping mission in the DRC. Tens of thousands of blue helmets are stationed there, shown interacting with communities. Mandate: protect civilians. Mandate: disarm armed groups. Mandate: support the Congolese government to stabilize the country. Their work is difficult and often criticized, yet they have saved lives and provided some security. Then there are hundreds of NGOs on the ground. Doctors Without Borders, medical clinics and hospitals where there's no care. The Red Cross, emergency aid to people who fled their homes. Human rights groups, documenting atrocities, trying to bring perpetrators to justice. Conservation groups like WWF, protecting rainforest and endangered species. These groups operate in dangerous, unpredictable environments, plugging gaps left by a failing state and providing a lifeline for millions. But perhaps the most important helpers are the Congolese people themselves. A vibrant, courageous civil society. Local community leaders mediating village conflicts. Women's groups building networks to support survivors of sexual violence, offering shelter and counseling and paths to healing. Brave journalists and activists risking their lives to expose corruption. People like Dr. Denis Mukwege, Nobel laureate treating thousands of war survivors. These local actors are the real agents of change. Lasting solutions have to be Congolese-led. They understand the local context. They have the trust of their communities. They have the most at stake in building a better future. They organize savings clubs in villages. They start small businesses. They run community schools. They replant trees. Supporting them is crucial. Empowering them is crucial. Amplifying their voices is crucial. So, where does this leave us? The story of the Congo is heavy. It's a story of almost unimaginable suffering, injustice and greed, but it cannot and should not end there, because alongside the darkness, there is also incredible light. There are signs of hope, powerful and real. You see it in the country's youth. More than 60% of the population is under the age of 25. This is a generation that is connected to the world through the internet, tired of the old conflicts and the old ways of doing things. They are demanding more. They are starting businesses, creating art, dreaming of a different kind of Congo. You see hope in the green shoots of economic change. Entrepreneurs building tech startups in Kinshasa. Farmers adopting new techniques to improve their harvests. There are efforts, small but growing, to process the Congo's minerals inside the country so that more of the value stays home instead of being shipped overseas. The potential is still there. The same land that has been the source of so much conflict could, with the right management and leadership, become the engine of prosperity for the entire continent. The question remains the same as it was 100 years ago. Who will benefit? In the end, the most important thing we can do is listen. For too long, the story of the Congo has been told by outsiders, colonizers, corporations, news reports that only focus on the violence. It's time to listen to Congolese voices, artists, activists, entrepreneurs, mothers, students. They are the ones who know the problems, and they are the ones who hold the solutions. The future of the Congo will not be built in Brussels or Washington. It will be built in Kinshasa, in Goma, in Lubumbashi, by the hands and hearts of the Congolese people themselves. They deserve our attention, our respect, and our solidarity in their fight for the just and peaceful future they have been denied for far too long.